Low end.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. How's everybody doing?
Good morning.
All right, see, we got Torvis, we got Miss Harris, freshly off of cohort 10. Got myself and Sonya Thomas. We got a lot to talk about today, but just wanted to start it off. How has your week been going this week, Torvis? It's hump day. It's 2 more days until the weekend, but how has your week started off?
It started out well. My little girl birthday's today. She's in court. She's in quarantine again, so she's back at home, chilling on her birthday. But the week is going good, man. The week's almost over, really.
We say the month is almost over, really. Ooh.
Yep, that's right.
What about you, Miss Harris?
Well, we doing good so far. No complaints. Ready for this fall break.
I understand that. I understand that. And then what about you, Miss Thomas?
Word. I got my Run DMC hat on over here for y'all. A few weeks ago, it was the organized hat. Now I want y'all to see my Adidas fishing hat. I'm doing good. What's up, y'all? I hope everybody is doing well.
We are. It is a day. Yeah, this week is going by fast, and like we said, next week is going to be fall break. So that'll take us through the half, and then the last half of the month is TSU homecoming, which some things just shut down. I think they're going to shut school down because so many teachers are like Friday afternoon. It's a half day.
It's TSU homecoming this week.
The last week in October, but I'm saying next week we got fall break. The week after that, and then the last week, which is the fourth week, it'll be Halloween, TSU homecoming. Got my 20-year class reunion. Like it is moving.
Wow, it is. Most definitely.
So I'll tell you guys, today we're talking about, and I see we got Miss Moffin, we got Rhea shouting out Miss Harris, we got Scott, cohort 10, we got Candace, we got Ivory, who's been our superstar. So it's a lot going on, but some of the things that we want to talk about today as you guys share this out, we want to discuss results from a parent survey that a lot of you guys took, and get a chance to kind of talk about that. If you've been watching our social media, you'll see we released a couple of the results, and we'll release even more. In a little bit, want to talk about kind of like schools, like what's happening with IEPs, what's happening with bullying, what's happening with buses. Like, let us know, like, this is a good platform and opportunity to hear what's going on that parents care about. One article that we'll go through, the statewide tutoring initiative. We know we talked about it, MNPS, high dosage tutoring, but all across the state, they're launching their tutoring programs this week and this month. And then, like I said, we got Ms. Harris on here, and we want to give a big shout out to cohort 11. We got over 20 parents who are starting our fellowship tomorrow. So those are some of the things that we're going to talk about.
Great topics.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Ms. Moffin. Thank you, Ms. Moffin. We're going to keep it going. Hey, teamwork makes the dream work.
Kay Carson, how you? Sorry, we did not introduce you, ladies and gentlemen, and also our co-host, Mr. Carson Little.
Yeah, Carson happy. He better take that nap before he come on. Okay, I see Mr. House. He said he tapped in too. But let's talk about like what is going on. I see we got Ms. Moffin, we got Tiana checking in with us, we got Thomas is on the road, we got Torvis who's dealing with some things. But what is going on in schools? What are some of the things that we enjoy? What are some of the questions that we have? And as we're thinking about that, before we do, one thing that I would love to do is just send our condolences to the school in Memphis. I believe it was Cummings Elementary School. Saw that run through the news, and it breaks your heart to see something like that happen in the school. And I can tell that the community is wrapping their arms around those families and those kids.
Yeah, it's one too many, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sad. I think it's every parent's worst nightmare is to have their children to go into a school building. You know, and we've always thought of that as being a safe place because, you know, we drop our children there, whether we drop them by car or they go on bus and we go to work. And you got to have some sense of security, right? When you think about leaving your kids and them being out of your presence and for your child to go to school and have your worst nightmare to happen to them. It's unimaginable.
All right, getting that phone call is not what you want to happen. And just as I watched the news, I know it was another shooting at a college campus, and they ended up shutting the school down. I believe it was Rhodes College, but it just shows you like we gotta love on our kids because we don't know what's going on, and we can only protect them so much.
Yeah, I mean, we got to love on people. I mean, let's just stop right here. And you know what's missing from this world, what's missing from our communities. And John, you and I were talking about this earlier, is the empathy. You know, being in tune to what's going on with other people. And to do this work, we both know, we all know in this call, you got to have some empathy in order to do this work. And most definitely Sarah Carpenter reminds us you got to have love. And I think that in everything we do as we're in our communities, we need to make sure that we focus on those two things. We got people that are really hurting. And I'm not justifying this act of just terror, right? To me, what I'm saying is every day this could potentially happen in our schools, in our hospitals, in our workplaces. And we really need to listen to people, and we need to be in tune to others, and making sure everybody around us is okay.
Yeah, and I'll tell you the conversation that I had with Sonya was about a former classmate of mine who reached out, sent me a private message. I want to say it was like 3 or 4 years ago, and it struck a chord, something that still gives me the chills today. And she told me how I made her feel, and in anger, what she thought about me, and it made me stop in my tracks. And I asked myself, man, why would I even think about making somebody feel like that? And so as I'm processing again, like I've been opening up, you know, my it seems funny, but it ain't funny when you're in elementary, middle, and high school. But my nickname was Chocolate Chip because I was dark skinned with a chip too. And as funny as that joke was, it kind of tore me down. So what did I do? I wanted to pivot as much as I could before somebody got me. And I just chose to joke on other people to keep the attention away from me. And that's her message really, really stuck with me. And it hurts because I don't want to feel like that. And I'm disappointed in myself that I made someone 15 years later, like still have the gusto to send me that message because they feel how they feel.
I mean, but I want to celebrate you though. And this is the thing. You were a child. You had your own shit. Okay. I'm just going to talk to my people right now. You had your own shit, your stuff, your own struggles in your life. And children don't have the decision-making skills. They don't have the skill set that they need to understand other people and what they are all the time, right? There's a natural aspect of that, but also there's something that needs to be nurtured. Empathy, teaching about we call it scored on each other, right?
Yep, joking, scoring.
You get scored on. We did that, right? We knew when to stop. We had a litmus. We had a measurement. And you and I talked about earlier, hurt people hurt people.
Hurt people hurt people.
Yeah, and I think people in our community hurt differently than we hurt back then. Like, I hate it when people say, let's go, White Creek, and we was all right. Let me tell you something. We really wasn't all right. It's just our family dynamics and the struggle was different. So school hasn't changed since then, and you don't have more people that were successful back then, right? What you got is a community that is damned in worse shape than it was back then. So the trauma and all those things that happen at home and in their worldview comes to school, comes to church, comes to everywhere. And so I want to commend you, first of all, for having the empathy, right? You took that message, and you're taking that message and you're amplifying even that girl's voice.
Yeah, she can do no wrong. And I'm going to bring baby Carson over here, but I just think if she didn't say that, I hope she got a release. But what happens when people hold those things in? Like, what happens with our kids? Like, how are we really dealing with that social and emotional component of it? Because, again, that manifested 15 years later. Like, when you think about a kid shooting at an elementary school, like, that's something that was manifesting, and he or she thought that that's how they were going to get the release.
Man, I'm going to tell you, in my own house, when CJ was really struggling in school, Trinity had her own traumas and things. She would lash out on him and call him stupid. Somebody calling you stupid when you're struggling in school damages you. Okay? So I'm look, because my house ain't perfect, right? And I think parents have to have these conversations. And so what I had to do is I had to try to figure out what was hurting Trinity so bad that she would go, and she couldn't stand for CJ to walk past her. She would just lash at him. And I had to teach my children, like, our mothers, like, you don't hurt people because you hurt, and you sure don't hurt your own siblings. Right?
Mm-hmm.
But as Trinity got older, she told me, she cried one day, she said, and I'm sorry, I'm getting choked up.
Mm-hmm.
She said, I used to try to hurt him because I was upset with myself. And she said, I feel like I damaged him.
Like an easy target.
So, but I celebrated her and I said, but you realized it. And you got an opportunity to go back and fix yourself, but also go to your sibling and tell them you're sorry. See, that's what we don't have in our community. And John, I just wanted to stop there. I just think this is a very important conversation for parents to listen to, because we got so many things. We got to go to the basics, right? See, these are the things that parents have to work on. School has a responsibility and parents have a responsibility. So when they throw that shit out, let me tell you what our responsibility is, because let us handle our parents in our community. You do what you're supposed to do in school, and you let us uplift our community. So mamas and daddies.
Yep.
I'm talking to you, Auntie Sonia. Listen to your children. Stop hollering. Ask them what you can do better for them. Get feedback from your children. They didn't come back. They didn't come with no manual. And you know what? We got our stuff too. Listen to them and see if they're hurting so that they won't hurt other people. Listen to them. And don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to lay ground rules. You don't have to give them everything that you didn't have. Give them the love and the empathy that they need, and then they can get the material things, because those things pass away. They pass away. And Scotty says, I'm proud of you, John Little, and I am proud of John Little too. I don't know John Little's story.
Yeah, and I think this conversation came from a place where, like, it's a struggle for me, not only with that, but even as we're talking to the youth, had a chance to talk to some eighth graders, and just looking at, we talked about peer pressure, and I was just like, what's on the mind of eighth graders right now? And they talked about peer pressure, and I was like, but break that down. Like, what does that mean? And it was some brave kids in there, and I was like, that's leadership. Like, y'all celebrate that. It was some shy kids. I said, everybody clap it up. And then we talked about the power of words. If somebody calls you ugly, a big part of your life, how are you gonna feel? You're gonna feel ugly. If somebody say you're handsome, pretty, gorgeous, drop dead gorgeous, how are you gonna feel? And we just talked about, like, we got to encourage one another. Like you said, Trinity called him stupid. Like, it's so easy to feel if you make a mistake, and people keep calling you that for you to believe it.
Yeah, I mean, my daddy said the first thing, how he knew that I was his at my Harry Hubbard Hospital, because he looked in the mirror and in the window and saw my big feet. Well, fast forward, I worked at Riverbend Maximum Security on death row, and there was this one inmate that taunted me. You know what he called me? Look at them big old feet. And had I been in a place, right? Like, just think of another man that I like to call me Bigfoot, right? Like, and my feet ain't even that big, but it's like, words hurt. And this man literally said that to me every day, that my feet was big. And I started to look down at my feet going, is my feet really that big? So people will say stuff to you to make you question yourself. And so parents, watch the words that we say. And I think Miss Kendall said that there's also bullying going on in our schools by educators. And you're right. We've seen it. We've seen screenshots from the pandemic where we had teachers that were bullying, and we didn't make them public, and we talked about them in other spaces, but we did see that. We see people bullying parents all the time. And that's why we have a movement for parents, by parents, because somebody got to represent us. So, I mean, this is, I don't think we need to talk about this, but we needed to. Sometimes we just got to talk to our people, our parents. We got to have these conversations around. We got to take care of our own community, because we got kids that are suffering. And I think in 2022, we're really going to explore some ways. John and I were talking this morning about some ways that we're going to get in these school buildings, and we're going to build our own community.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk to our kids about bullying. See, if kids don't know what bullying is, they had the don't smoke, don't drink, drive campaigns going, right? Nobody's saying that stuff to our children. And I think that those things help. I came up through that era, right? We got to start doing campaigns for children. They got to know what it means to bully and what it means to harass. I don't think that they really can comprehend.
Right, they can.
Some of this stuff. Some of it they can, right? Because they're not dumb. But when you are a child, you speak as a child, you act as a child, you are a child. And so I think that schools really need to focus on dealing with these issues. It's part of social emotional learning.
Yeah.
And that's having campaigns around things like peer pressure and bullying. But also they need to take their policies and they need to use them and implement them in the correct way that is diverse, it's not biased, it does not have racism embedded in them.
Yeah. And Scott,
like so many kids. I think so many kids now, I mean, we call it Joning back in the days, but so many kids now, we do stuff to get likes, to get views. They do the TikTok and the YouTube to get people to subscribe and all that stuff. And so they do a lot of different things and not really thinking, because they're just trying to get likes and get views. So that's
yeah. But what if we taught them a way to get those same things without hurting people?
Right.
We don't talk about that, right? Like, you can get them same likes without hurting somebody. Like, we don't have to make that the norm. We don't have to let those campaigns win.
So what Scott says that's why I have so much pain, because I didn't have any place or anyone to talk to. I never got uplifted. I was bullied and talked down to. It made me treat my son better. And so it manifested in him. He said, I want to make sure my son never feels the way I felt. And he's doing it different. But it's a lot of times that we see that you think that's just how you talk to your kids. Like, you're going to be just like your daddy. Like, I don't.
Those things hurt.
Yep.
Those things hurt. Thank you, Scotty. Scotty was, is it Scotty or was it Oliver that was in our class?
Yep, both.
Both. Was it Scotty that was my friend that was a jokester? Which one was the joke?
That was Oliver.
Oliver's on here. Oliver kind of talked about some of those things too, happening in his community. And we got to do some things different. Hey, car. We got to do some things different and in our community. We got to have some different talks and not the shaming and not the saying that people don't care. I just don't believe that, because we door knock and we go to these doors. I haven't seen a parent that doesn't care. I have seen some very hurt children. Some of you guys know some of the stuff I dealt with in 2020 with not even my own kids murdering kids and being at the forefront of that, which was really painful. But when I tell you that the kid that murdered the kid was in so much pain, he talked to me for 4 hours straight, from 4 o'clock in the morning to 8 o'clock in the morning. He had so much pain and nobody listened to him. I shut my pee hole and I was sleepy, but I listened to him, and all the pain that he revealed in 4 hours was a pain that some of y'all can't even handle. So we got to listen to these kids. These kids are not necessarily bad. They can turn bad. And stop saying your kid's bad when they wanting to, he bad. I'm sorry.
Yes. When a kid hears I'm bad, they was like, oh, I mean, they don't have the ability. And Ms. Harris, we definitely want to hear from you on this. I know you got kids in high school and maybe middle school or elementary, but when you keep telling the kid, man, like, you bad, you know what's gonna happen, they just gonna believe it. Well, that's who I am, that's what I'm gonna be, because their brain hasn't built up the muscle to be able to process that and say, no, like, that's wrong, no, that's not who I am. They start to say, yes, I'm bad.
Yeah. And we laugh at that too. Like, we say it in joking, but words have power.
Ms. Harris, how you doing, ma'am? Welcome to the show. And thank you for tuning in and joining in and jumping on the discussion. And one of the discussions, as you hear, we're talking about the power of words and how it affects our children, the power of words amongst the kids themselves, the power of words coming down from adults to children, whether they're the teachers or the parents. But how do you feel?
Okay, let me tell y'all something real quick. I'm at the doctor's appointment, so if the doctor or something come in, I'm gonna have to put y'all back on mute real quick, okay?
Yep, we say health as well.
Okay. From my point of where my son, I have my 14-year-old. He doesn't open up. He won't talk to me. I had to talk to him, ask questions. We try to take his phone at night, look at his social media just to see what's going on for him, to make sure he's not being bullied or make sure he don't feel a certain way, because he won't open up. And so I actually put him in counseling to see, was it because of virtual? Last year he was shut down. He was in a house. I just think that the kids they need more. They need, the counselors that they have at school are not doing a great job. I think they need somebody else they can really talk to besides just their parents.
Yeah. And I want to give piggyback off of that, and then we can go to the next subject. There's nothing wrong with building a village around your children. We take them to the doctor for stomach aches and fevers. And there's nothing wrong with having somebody who can help support the family. Parents didn't come with a manual. And sometimes we need help as a family because our families and our communities are traumatized. And that's okay. And I want to celebrate you.
Mm-hmm.
I want to celebrate you as a mom, and I want to celebrate your child for being open to it and knowing that it doesn't mean anything is wrong with them.
Yep.
But just sometimes it's just like going to the regular doctor and getting some Tylenol. Sometimes we need some behavior things to help us, some modification, some things to help us get organized in our brains. And who's to say that one's trauma is worse than the other? Okay. So, I mean, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. And while you're on here, Ms. Harris, one thing that we want to talk about are the Navigators. You know, there have been multiple stories that have been going around what the Navigators do, what they have been doing, what are some of the results. And the interesting thing on Access Denied, even going all the way back to last year, I can remember when we were having a conversation and we straight up was just asking parents, if you got a Navigator, let us know. What school is the Navigator at? What are they saying? You know, and Sonia, you know, you show some of your messages that you got from one. But Miss Harris, as we go around, and you got a kid, as I remember, at Antioch High.
Yeah, he at Antioch High School, but last year in virtual, he was at Apollo.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Lord Jesus, I'm so glad he out of Apollo. Okay. Yeah, but he did have a Navigator. And she called like every 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
She always asked if he needed clothes, if he needed food, how do he feel?
Mm-hmm.
Can she speak to him? Do he need tutoring? Do he need Hi, how you doing? Oh, okay. All right, you gotta go. Let's go to ultrasound. Do I need to take him in the stroller? No, he can walk. Okay, come on.
We'll go ahead and because we don't want to be in your private business, but we'll discuss it. Thank you so much for joining us and sharing that.
Yeah, we always say help as well. And so one of the things in the survey is we're sending it out to parents and we're getting the mixed reviews. Like for some people, like, yep, definitely got the text message. But for a lot of our families, what we've been hearing, and I don't know the number, so I think it was 78%.
Yeah, I just shared the graphic if you want to pull it up. I don't know if you can.
What she was trying to finish up saying was that the old school, they got calls, but then at Antioch, where they go to school at now, she said she hasn't gotten any phone calls about the navigation. So that's what she was trying to get to, but she had to get off.
That's okay. Yeah. I mean, and you know, I think that the problem is where are they now? I mean, for her, I think she's asking, well, where is that? I didn't get to hear from her like how that was for her, how her experience was. And I would love to bring her back in here more because I think it's good for us to hear from authentic parents on like their experiences. It informs what's real, what's not. So
yeah, and Miss Harris has been on here. What I love about Miss Harris, I mean, she has been on here faithfully and letting us know things that are happening at Antioch. And so I was glad to see her on here. But Ms. Moppin says we really need the definition of an advisor in Y class and what it's supposed to look like for my child.
Yeah, I need a definition of advisor class and what it's supposed to look like for my child. I think that is a very good question. And I think some clarity needs to be put around navigators. I think I had sent out something and Sue Kessler said that they still have navigators at Hunters Lane, but they call them something else. One of the problems is the central office rolls out things and it never translates to the schools the same way. That's a communications problem. That is an implementation issue. That is a failure. So if people don't understand your vision around stuff, and your vision is not clearly communicated to the parents and to the children, it's a failure. And so, based on the survey of our parents, and we put it on our social media for transparency, so everybody could see that. I want to talk about first how we got there. We surveyed, our parents in the community, parents that we just met, and parents that are currently involved in Propel. And one of the questions we asked them, first of all, we made sure that they attended Nashville public schools. So I want to be clear, just for those haters and naysayers. We doing stuff over here the right way. And one of the things we asked was, are you aware of the MNPS dashboard? And one of the survey results says that they're not. 63.8% of those parents weren't even aware of the student dashboard. And so, I want to talk about that too. Like, the district says that the student dashboard is their plan to recover children from learning loss. But when the majority of the parents and students are unaware of it, then that's a failure. That is a failure.
Yeah, I mean, if you're offering something and people don't know anything about it, I mean, who are you offering it to? A lot of people that I talk to, a lot of persons I talk to, I don't even know what the navigation call is. They've never gotten one at all. So they pretty much just trying to do what they can do. I mean, a lot of times they can't even get to the school. So if they don't know what the navigation call is, really, I mean, the program is not working.
No, it's not. I mean, we got two issues here. No navigator, no idea about, the plan to recover children from learning loss, unaware of a dashboard. And, that's a problem. I would think a navigator will help you to navigate through those processes and kind of connect you to a student dashboard or to a plan to recover children. There was a post on Facebook earlier in the week about tutoring services. A friend posted asking if anybody knew of hour-long tutoring that they could access, and basically was asked to take the post down by a principal here. And I'm gonna get you, Mr. I ain't gonna say the name in school right now, but I'm coming for you, because you go to school silencing people, and you don't tell somebody to take down a post because you embarrassed because you didn't have tutoring at your school. So I'm coming for you, and you know who you are.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm coming personally for you. Excuse me, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think we keep talking about this theme, right? The danger of a single story. And only thing that pops up in my mind, like going to graduations last year, kids were so happy. I really just kept thinking about, what about the kids who knew this was their graduation year, right? And they did not have the opportunity to walk because they weren't academically ready. Torvis and I were talking about a student who was in the 11th grade with 3 credits. I think Thomas and I talked about another family. And so when I look at and we think about the survey results, right, as we bring them back up, and the survey says, do you know the district's plan for helping children to recover from learning loss? And 82, let's say 83% is no, and like 17% are yes. And when we don't know the plan, but we also realize, right, we also realize that there are people who are still not reading on grade level. So the state had to pass a law, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like we got a huge problem, and it starts with this survey. Like, do you know the district's plan? Because what you don't know, you can't get the help for. we're going to talk a little bit about the tutoring that's launching all across the state based on the state grant. But you can tell as we listen to you guys, like, has it hit the doorsteps of the parents who need it the most yet?
No. And the thing is, so my question is, when does this tutoring start? When children need it now?
Mm-hmm.
Since you mentioned it, I mean, it's just start to have questions. If children are struggling right now, do we wait until they can't read? Do we wait until a state test, or do we? That's why we have advocated for a plan. Like you stop the bleed before it's actually a hemorrhage, right? And in this case, what we've got is hemorrhaging. And let me tell you something. It takes a whole lot more to stop a hemorrhage. It takes a whole lot more.
Because it's flowing pain.
Well, as a parent, I don't have time to wait for them to decide when they're gonna offer it, how you gonna offer it, who's gonna get it, who ain't gonna get it, whatever. Because every day your child is losing, especially behind. So I mean, we had to go ahead and get our child tutoring services. She had a tutor before, like it's a little bit through the pandemic, but now thanks to Miss Sherry, we're gonna start doing some more tutoring and doing some real tutor. Because like I said, you can't when you're a child, you ain't got time to wait. You can't not keep waiting. It's like saying, I'm hungry, but I'm gonna wait 2 or 3, 4 days a week, whatever. Eventually, something's gonna happen.
And I know we got Mr. the driver on the line, but like as you think about it, I know you got some kids in elementary, you got some kids in high school. Like, how's your on the plan? Like when we think about, and we had this discussion last night, even about Pearl. Like it's just like sometimes you got to have some tough conversations just to see where we are and where we need to go. And we know Pearl, man, they have been kicking butt. They have had some of the best football and basketball making it to the state, even in bowling, I think. But we start to think about like what happens after that and like what's the real plan? Is there a plan? Do parents feel connected to what the plan is to make sure those kids are excelling? The biggest thing somebody told me, was like, man, at Pearl back in the day, about 3 or 4 years ago, like they got their books late. They didn't even have books on the first day of school. I was like, man, just 2019, they didn't have a lot of teachers for English, science, and mathematics, let alone the books. And you have to ask yourself, but why? And what does that mean? What's the negative result for not giving those kids the same thing they need that all the other kids got?
What's the negative result?
I could say a negative result of. I know a school right here in Nashville that didn't have a math teacher for 2 years. They kept wondering like. They always say the kids can't add, they couldn't add. You found out they didn't have a math teacher. So what are they supposed to do and learn? And these are kids that's in 11th and 12th grade. So what they supposed to learn?
You got Coach Stone in there, who's the physical education teacher, teaching mathematics. And all Coach Stone say, don't make no noise in here, and y'all good. Do what you want to do. When the bell ring, y'all leave. And he babysit the class for 2 years. That's what Coach Stone did.
Oh my God. I mean, I was thinking about even, I know we just went through a pandemic. That's what everybody talk about. Oh, we just went through a pandemic.
Let's not talk about it then. Let's talk about before the pandemic. Right.
Because when you talk about learning loss, right? Like these test scores that just came out, they ain't showing learning loss. They showing these kids ain't never had it.
Mm-hmm.
See, when you lose something, you had it, right?
Yeah.
They're showing these kids ain't never had it.
Yeah. And somebody last week again, it kind of hit me the wrong way. And I would love Torvis or Thomas for you guys to chime in. And so at the board, we went over the 2 schools, right? And I was like, man, they had this great plan, right, of how they exited off the priority list. And I was like, see, that's what I'm talking about. That's great. And then somebody sent me the numbers. And they didn't get off the priority list because they had this magical plan where they really recovered the kids academically, socially, emotionally. They literally got off the list because it was schools maybe in West Tennessee that were worse. And so we put up this big charade of walking through this whole process. And the number said that was a lie.
Mm. My goodness.
That's fool's gold. You mean, you got off the list by default.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not good.
And does it really help kids? Like getting off the priority school list is a priority, right? But when you at 5.7% and you down from 7.7, like I would be like, man, keep me in the priority school. Like, yeah, we ain't leaving. Like y'all ain't putting us out. We got worse. Nope.
But if you think about it, the child might not even know they're in the priority school.
No. When
Oh,
we
They know what the school is.
they don't. I mean, when we talk to parents, when we talk about this issue, we realize they don't know. They don't know. We as a people are so used to doing what people tell us to do. Send your child to that school. You know what I'm saying? Like we just don't know. And so that is one of the reasons why we do the work that we do.
Mm-hmm.
We want to make sure that parents have the knowledge. I mean, who would have thought when I got into this work, before I got into this, I never would have thought that this was going on. Because I've always been taught to trust. And I've always been, my granddaddy was a sharecropper, and he was born, his parents were slaves. And he wanted me to be a school teacher.
Mm-hmm.
That was the lucrative career for our people
Mm-hmm.
back then. And my granddaddy couldn't read, he couldn't write. He could count his money though.
Mm-hmm.
He couldn't read, he couldn't write. And we're just taught to have respect and just do what you're told. That's what we're taught.
I think I just think it's a real big disconnect between the expectations of things that are going on, because if you ask the mentality of the community, what's a bad school? I don't think the majority of the community is thinking that the person asking the question is talking about academics. If you say what's a bad school, the average person in the community is going to think about violence,
Yeah, fighting.
crime.
Yep, I agree.
They're not gonna really think academically that the school is bad. So when you say a priority school to the community, the way that it's worded will make the average person think talking about a privileged school. And it's actually
But is that intentional?
Right.
To me, that sounds, there's some intentionality in there, right? Priority school. I mean, if you're the priority, I'm a woman. And if he make me the priority, you see what I'm saying? I'm thinking I'm getting all the attention and all the good attention, all the good stuff from that person, right? But for them, a priority school is a school that has not gotten what is needed. And to me, it does not get what it needs to be equitable, right? It's not getting the academic support. It's not getting, like they say, it's not getting the funding. But in fact, when you look at reality, those schools do get additional funding. And you have to ask yourself, are they kept like that so that they get that type of attention? I know that was some stuff I just spit out, but the priority schools, they get additional funding, Title I money and all of those things, but yet we don't see any progress. And we have to say, well, why? Is that intentional?
So remember back in the day when you used to get the Levi jeans, right? And it would have who inspected the jeans, right? It was a quality control person. So every so jeans they may be a misfit. They'll send them to this store where we can buy them for a discounted rate. But they were able to identify the jeans that were not ready to go out on the storefront. And as we think about our school system, what's the quality control, right, in third grade that says, hey, we may have a problem, like let's look into it and bring it back together, right?
We don't have one. We don't have one. And there's so many things that need to inform that, right? But I feel like no one is really minding the store. I think the thing is there's just, and I think Torvis said it, there's no expectation. And Thomas just reached that word, just said that word too. The expectations are not set. Okay.
And so Thomas, as someone who coaches football, right, you look at the best and the brightest kids who come under your leadership, right? And you're thinking about them like, hey, like we're a community and you pour into them the whole football season. What are ways you think we got to do to keep them academically up where they can continue to thrive? Like one kid told me, I was like, what do you want to do? He was like, I want to be an athlete. What does it take to be an athlete, right? Like, because if you knew, you would change. Like I was talking to him because he was not doing what he needed to do in order to make it to the NFL. He wasn't doing it socially or academically. And we just had to take a step back. Like, what does that mean?
I mean, I don't treat them any different. I'm as hard on the fastest person on the team as the slowest person on the team, because my team can only be as strong as the weakest link. And that goes the same way for the country. When you look at these other countries and how fast they're adapting and how fast that they're learning and coming up with different things, I have to ask myself and wonder, how fast could we come up with things if some of the greatest minds are not developed and just end up in the penitentiaries or, having the attitude of just working a job and never working a job to create their own, or wanting to be entrepreneurs, or feeling that they can't, be in a NASA program or being something else because they don't see many people who look like them. So honestly, I think it starts with the parents. I mean, if the parents can't get on one tune with the system that's providing the education for the minds of the future, then that's a big issue.
Yeah, I don't think it's a parent. It's not a parent problem. It's not a parent. It's not a parent getting in tune to it. The system is not made for our children. So
I'm speaking of there's just like the Navigator, for instance.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter how many navigators. It doesn't matter how many dashboards. It doesn't matter how many things that you have out there if it's not on eye level with the parents.
So you're not saying it's a problem. You're saying it's a partnership problem. If they're not bringing the language to the parents, then the parents can't get on board with it.
Right. So there is no back and forth. It's a complete disconnect because you're putting out something and nobody understands, nobody has a comprehension of what's asked, what's supposed to be done. If you don't know you don't know that there's tools, then you don't know how to use the tools. So
whose fault is that, Thomas? Right? Like if you don't have access to the tools, if the central office says that we have navigators, but then when you get to the school, either there's no navigators or it's called Tiger Time, right? Mm-hmm. Like whose fault is that?
Well, it's gonna be the school and the central, whoever running the school. That's gonna be their fault because If you give me something and I ask about it and it doesn't exist or it doesn't exist in my world, then it's the same thing as you never doing it in the first place.
Right.
Yeah, I think taking it out of education, right? And this is what I always give to people. I say, who knows about credit and how to use credit, right? Who knows how to be ready to get a house? And we meet people. We'll get on these Facebook groups. Like people will be like, "Look, man, I need the help. Like I done tried to go get this house, and they done laughed me out the building, right? I done tried to go get this house, and my credit was a 300." If credit runs the nation to give you the ability to get your car, your house, your furniture, and you were never told about it, and someone came to me and said, "Well, it's your fault." But if it was never in my face or never even spoke to me, like I'm being taught as a kid, like they're teaching me how to survive in this world, right? Even the house Negroes and the field Negroes fought, but at the end of the day, they were still slaves. They fighting with each other like who got it best, but they're still slaves. And so I think we got to say, when we talk about what was intentional and what was a coincidence, why would parents even be in the predicament of where we are right now? Like, how is it that people can go through? I mean, Scott Hill is on here. Scott talked about Scott is a fighter, right? Scott was like, y'all got me messed up. Like, I went through some stuff as a kid. I got a kid, and my kid is gonna be better than me, right? So he fighting, right? But one thing he said a couple of weeks ago, he was like, "Man, I work at a place that I don't want to work at." And he got the will to do it. He show up. I'm pretty sure he show up early every day. He does a good job, but still, he is in a place, right, that he don't want to be.
Yep.
I mean, saying that, even saying that, it reminds me of when we come up to school. I had economics class, and it was different teachers at nickel list, and they come in and say, "How you earn and spend your money?" You go out the door. That's all we know. How you earn and spend your money. Okay, so fast forward, you going to college, you come across campus, you got a credit card. You really got the credit. I really got the credit card because I went to college rank. We had real day practices. I was tired. We didn't know nothing really about credit things. They weren't talking to me about how to in school how to earn, credit or how to buy a house or whatever. Even they didn't even teach you about balancing checkbook. That's something that you picked up later on. But looking back at now, if we was taught this stuff back then, if we'd been exposed to it back then, it's a lot of mistakes you wouldn't have made at our age that we wouldn't have made. But our parents weren't exposed to it, and then we weren't exposed to it. And so now you're trying to expose your kids to some stuff that you knew or didn't know because you want them to be better and do better. So I mean, I just look at it like that. If you're not exposed to it, if it's not given to you, what you gonna do with it?
Yeah, I think, I think you're exactly right. I think what we're talking about here is opportunity. We're talking about a couple of things here. High expectations. We're talking about opportunity. And when you look at the word opportunity, you can't help but to think about how race does play a factor into this. When I looked at some of the test scores across the board, I also saw that there were some schools with more privileged kids who had also had very low test scores. Not as low, but they, they wasn't that high. So what we know is we got a system problem, right? But I'm going to tell you something. The outcome of children of color is different than those who are not. Point blank. And people can challenge me on that if they want to. I got receipts. Okay. And I think that the system as is will not work for Black children. And I'm just going to say that out loud. It never will work for Black children. And I'm not changing that at this point, especially when an organization such as ours, who represents Black and brown families from our most struggling communities, tries to partner with the district, and they tell us that they can't. And when you tell me that you can't do something for us, and never tell me what you can, and everything that you say you can do never gets to our children, I realized quickly that it just won't work for our kids.
So one of the things that I want to highlight here is this article, right? So the article is a Tennessean article, but it was they talked with people at Vandy at the Peabody School. It's just done the research, right? And so they go to Vandy, they get the research, and they tell them this is what you got to do to help kids. If you do this and you do it the right way, this is likely the result. Like, we've done the research and we understand and we know, right? So then we look at, let me just go through here and just read a blurb of it. It says, what matters is the format of tutoring, how much the kids get, how many hours, how is it targeted, and how it's connected to what's happening within the school day. Carolyn says, she's Vanderbilt Peabody. The Dean of College of Education at UT Knoxville contends that one-on-one or small group tutoring individualized to each student's needs is ideal. And they end with, it's widely agreed upon in the education world that the most effective way of getting kids the support they need if they are behind. And if educators know that students are more likely to benefit from a study provided during the school day than after school, where barriers like transportation and other family responsibilities can arise. And so, Sonya, when I hear you say they can't do it, but they know where we are, right? They know where we are.
It works. They know it works, but you tell me you can't do for me what works. You can't put an individual or personalized plan around my child. We know that's what we need, but you can't do it. Go ahead, John.
So I always go back to, and this was around who had the longest stick contest. Who was gonna make it to the moon first, right? Who can even think about space travel? But these people went out, built the spaceship, wrecked one, came back again, and sent that spaceship to the moon and got there first and put the flag down.
And came back.
And came back.
And came back. They ain't just go and die. They came back.
And lived their lives. But no one, the loudest person in the room at that point was not someone saying we can't. The loudest person in the room was saying we can and we will. And so when we got kids, and we can pull up the results again, but when we got kids at 5.7% grade level on math or reading, and we're saying we can't, but we take a paycheck, and we don't think about those kids are going through the system. And we just kind of forget about them. We say, can't save everybody, so we just not gonna save anybody. If we can't save them all, we're not saving any.
But our country will go to war somewhere else and won't even leave his dead over there.
Come on now.
And it goes back to our survey. What you said you can do, you're not doing.
Mm-hmm.
You're not even doing that. Government education is the only system that can say that they're going to do something and never do it and be lucrative.
Right.
And be lucrative.
And so we got a money problem.
And get more money.
I asked law students, right? These are students who are about to lead the country on law, whether it's entertainment, criminal. You can name a million of them. I asked them, how much is the Metro Nashville school budget? One future lawyer said $6 million. Another said, I'm gonna go with $150 million. That was the largest. And when I told them about the $1.1 billion, not including ESSER funds, they couldn't believe it, because they've been told their whole lives that public schools don't have money. And they believe it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And it's something else, man. We wrapping up.
Yeah.
And I just want to close with, we'll be putting out more of our survey information. But I mean, the bottom line is they've got to learn to listen to parents. And until they do that, I don't believe that they're going to be able to solve it. And I think until there's true transparency and true accountability for people to do what they say they're going to do, and not just do it just to be doing it, but to have a spirit of excellence, which requires being intentional. Until that's done, then we're in trouble. Point blank. Like, I'm not gonna sit here and sugarcoat. You know, if the house on fire, I'm not gonna say the house on fire. I'm gonna say the house is on fire. Get out. I'm not gonna ask you to bring me a cup of water if the house is on fire. I'm gonna ask you to bring the hose from the fire hydrant. And so, parents, the house is on fire. The house is on fire.
And that's what we'll close with. Thank you guys for joining in. Thank you for the comments. Candace, I see your comment. You finally got the date. I saw Joyce. She said something that made my heart. She was like, she never knew what a priority school was until she joined Propel. And that's why we got to continue to do this work. And that's why we can't rest until all kids are receiving a high quality education. And not only can we not rest, we got to believe that and fight like our lives and our kids' lives depend on it. Because so far it does.
Man, you got to put them Vaseline on them cheeks and take them earrings. Look, take them earrings off. I mess with some of y'all. Some of y'all take the wig off too.
You know, you gotta make them say it twice. What you say?
What you say? Wait a minute. What you say?
Yeah, you gotta say it twice. What you say? Say that again.
I know you ain't talking. I know you ain't talking to me.
Come on now.
Like, who you talking to?
Talking to me? It make you lose yourself. You be like, watch your mouth.
Watch your mouth. Yep, Victoria, watch your mouth.
All right, guys. Thank you guys for jumping on. Next week we will be in our retreat, planning, retreating, getting ready to finish off this year stronger than ever. Again, shout out to cohort 11. We'll be starting tomorrow for our new parent fellowship. We got over 20 parents that are coming in, and we will see you guys soon.
All right, y'all.